Welcome back to another edition of the Well and Good podcast. My name's Jay Smack, and in this show, you will hopefully hear something that you did not know before, or at least something that interests you. That's kind of where this show was born, out of a position of curiosity and to attempt, at least, to bring some positivity into the world, a world that decidedly needs more positivity. So what I do here is explore things that I'm curious about, or things that hopefully will help you and me both learn something. We've talked to acupuncturists, a flotation therapy practitioner, and Dr. David Burr. We'll be getting into other subjects such as colorectal cancer and how to prevent it. March is Colorectal Cancer Prevention Month, so going forward, we'll try to help you learn something, and maybe you come out of it a little bit healthier, maybe a little bit more enlightened, maybe it will satisfy some curiosity. My guest today is Nathan Burns of Burning the Map, and I actually recorded this a couple months ago, right before Christmas, with Nathan as he was traveling the world. That's why he is on the show. Nathan decided, in his own words, to quit his job and travel. Directly from Nathan's website, he says, "I'm a 31-year-old guy from Richmond, Virginia that decided to quit his job and travel. I'll be engaging in cultural exchanges through Workaway and a good old-fashioned smile and wave." So that's pretty cool. He quit his job, went not halfway around the world, all the way around the world. I guess it's halfway. All the way would be back here. But Workaway, by the way, is something set up. It's a site to set up to promote fair cultural exchange between budget travelers, language learners, or culture seekers and families. That's from their website. You can go to workaway.info for more information on that, and find all the links to Nathan's social media presence, where you can follow his blog. That's at burningthemap.com/blog. I actually am starting this interview in progress here in just a second. I was kind of so fascinated with what Nathan is doing, I forgot to even do the intro. So we'll start this conversation in progress, find out where Nathan is right now and how he decided to basically just quit his job and learn more about the world. Here is Nathan Burns of Burning the Map on the Well and Good podcast. Oh, you know what? It just occurred to me. I haven't said anything about who you are or how you got on the other side of the world.
Oh, yeah.
Nathan Burns, of course, of Burning the Map, and that's a website and a presence that you started. And I made some notes here. Let me see here. And I've been following, man, because I think it's really cool that you're doing this and really engaging for people. And who hasn't thought, I just want to give it all up and start traveling and go experience other stuff.
Right, exactly.
But, all right, cool. So take us through the process a little bit. When you decided, when you knew this was something you were going to do, which was basically quit your job, head abroad, travel, figure it out on the fly, kind of. I think I know that you saved some money, but you're doing Workaway, which is a work for lodging and stuff service. Anyway, talk a little bit about that, how it led up to it, and when you decided and when you knew you were going to take the leap.
Yeah, so probably, like you said, like people have always wanted to do something like this. It's always kind of in the back of their minds, or they're working towards it. So probably, I want to say maybe 2 years ago, I set a goal for myself, like in 5 years, I'm going to leave and travel. And so that was, I think the drop dead date was like 2021 or something like that. And then it was, I think earlier of this year, January 2018, I was like, why am I waiting? What's the point? Like, I'm not getting any younger, and there might just be like more life complications in the future that will hold me back and prevent me from taking the plunge. So I was just like, all right, this is going to be the year. I'm doing it. I'm going to leave in the summer and let me start figuring everything else out to go along with that. So from there, it was kind of doing some research online, looking at other travel bloggers' formulas of like, this is how much money they spent over the course of the year. This is how many places they were able to travel to. These are some tips of how to save money, or of what gear they took, or, you know, like what they did on the road, all those type of things. And like found some podcasts to listen to and stuff like that.
What are some of
And
those?
then,
I'm curious about those. Like I know Tim Ferriss promotes a mini retirement philosophy.
yeah, so one of the bigger ones, I think, is called like Travel Vagabond. And I looked at his stuff for kind of like his was more like gear related for me and what he was doing. And there was a few different people that I looked at for budget things, and I don't even remember actually, because they were just like really quick check-ins on like, oh, here's this spreadsheet, like tracking costs. But the podcast that I listened to the most of was called The Budget Minded Traveler. And so she has actually, like, she talked to, each episode was kind of about like tips of how to save money and how to travel. And then she also like has other people on every now and then that are doing similar things, or like something in the travel sphere that's like pretty unique and cool. So
Well,
yeah,
your
those are
presence,
resources for me.
you know, your website and your social media presence, it's really together. It looks like you thought about it for a long time. I mean, even the write-ups and the trip, was it TripAdvisor or Travelocity?
TripAdvisor.
All that stuff. It's really together. It almost seemed like you've got bigger plans for it later. Like maybe you want to make a documentary out of it, or take it somewhere else, take your efforts somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. I appreciate that. I think that's just probably a little bit from my background, you know, like working in the advertising industry, knowing how good, like what a good branded product looks like.
Yeah.
And I have high standards for myself always. So not that I'm really necessarily trying to super promote this and like become an influencer and be followed by a million people or anything like that. It's just, how do I want this thing that I'm putting out there to look and appeal to me, which then I think, you know, will spill over into other people.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of like being a musician, which you are, and you don't want to run a new demo out there to everybody you meet. You're like, okay, I think it's worthy to hit the world now.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So it's definitely a work in progress, and like things that it's evolving over time, obviously, as most things do and should. But yeah, I actually just kind of threw together some of the like graphics and the logo, like, I don't know, a few days before I left Richmond. And I was just like, yeah, I think this looks good. I'll run with that. Now I can't shave my beard, but that's okay.
And before you hit New Zealand, we're, I guess, making our way there in the whole process of it. You hit Seattle, San Diego, and San Francisco, and you have connections to each of those cities. Is that right?
Yeah, so that was kind of like a West Coast farewell for me, like a gearing up to be gone for a long time. So I have a cousin in Seattle, my brother lives in San Francisco, and then I have really good friends that live in San Diego. So it was kind of nice to like pop over there, see them, see some family, you know, get a little bit of last USA fun in before, and it also gets me proximity-wise closer to New Zealand, so that didn't hurt.
Now, how long is that flight?
It was 16 hours, I think.
Okay.
14 hours, something in that ballpark. I think it depends on where you're going from and what direction they're going to, like, if you're going east or west, basically.
Yeah.
Longest
flight I've ever taken was New York to Tokyo. Which was west. You head west over Canada, and it was
like
I think it
18 or
was, yeah, it was
something.
about 18 hours because the whole trip we were on our way to Vietnam the whole trip was 24 hours to get there.
Oof,
It's
yeah,
crazy.
super brutal.
um, all right, cool. So you're in New Zealand. The workaway thing, talk about that, how you
Hmm.
found it a little bit, what that has meant to the travel. Because, now that Airbnb and more hostile type accommodation sites and apps are out there, it seems to be promoting travel, quote unquote, on the cheap, or at least making it more accessible. Plus, there has to be a psychological aspect of the workaway deal because you're really working and earning your keep. How'd you find that, and what have those implications been?
Yeah. I was actually like recommended that by a friend who knew like, oh, you're looking to set out and do something. Well, you should check out this website because I did it for a month in Spain and it was awesome. And so, yeah, then I checked out the website. It's a subscription based website. So you pay an annual fee to be a member in order to contact hosts. But you can just look at it and research and find people without paying. So, like, if this is something that you're interested in, you can just go down the avenue and see if anything looks promising, and then wait until you're ready, and then pay the money to send out the emails. But yeah, like it was a really intriguing prospect because number one, I think probably was the most important thing for me was connecting with people, like just seeing what their everyday life is in a rural setting, or just what they do day to day. And then number two, from a budgetary standpoint, because yeah, you're working 20 to 25 hours per week in whatever they need help with. I think the vast majority of the stuff on the site is like farming, landscaping, gardening type stuff. But in exchange for that work, you're getting room and board. So you have a place to stay and you have meals to eat. So especially for some of them that are a little bit more rural, you're not really spending money because I didn't have a vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of just like hanging out. And then, I've had super nice hosts that have been like, here, just borrow our car if you want to go out and explore on your day off or whatever. And that was like the perfect scenario.
And how long have you stayed with people on average? A couple days, a week or so?
Yeah, everyone's been basically a week. There have been a few where I did 2 week stays. And yeah, like I said before, the majority of the work was landscaping type stuff. I did stay at like a boutique accommodation where we were doing like servicing of guest rooms and pressing linens and stuff like that. So like housekeeping type things. And then I'm actually at one right now where I'm applying my old trade, doing video editing.
Oh, nice. What's that?
Yeah,
What's
so
the
it,
place?
it really varies. It's just, yeah, like I'm doing some videos for a guy who has a personal development business.
Cool. Yeah, I see some gym equipment behind you.
Well, that's just recreation, I guess.
Right on. Okay, so you started on the West Coast, went to New Zealand. You're in Australia now. We're making our way along. So why New Zealand, aside from the obvious? It looks incredibly beautiful and exotic, especially when you're 18 hours away.
Hmm.
And Americans, or when you're as far away as we are, I think a lot of people are really fascinated. But why New Zealand, and where are you headed after, say, Australia, or do you know that?
Hmm. I think primarily the reason that I picked New Zealand was because, I mean, like you said, it just seemed like a very beautiful place. Thank you, Lord of the Rings,
Hmm.
because yeah, scenery is stunning, and it was a country that was really far away. So I was like, that'll like knock out a big cost of a like hefty plane ticket up front. and then I can kind of sort of work my way back to the US. Plus, like it's an English speaking country, so I can kind of like get my feet under me in this long term travel game and figure out any sort of like kinks and get used to life on the road. Plus, their culture just seemed really interesting. So that was my motivation for choosing New Zealand. And so yeah, then easy hop over to Australia after that. Somewhat similar culture, but many differences. It's like substantially bigger, huge cities that I kind of was like, oh yeah, this is what a city is. I forgot about that. And then after Australia, I will probably be going to Indonesia.
Oh, wow. Just to check it out, or do you have a target that you want to go see or do?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually thinking originally that I would go to Bali for Christmas just as like sort of a chill out, indulge a little bit by the pool type thing. But nah, I'm in Australia and happy to be here. So I don't know. There's no like particular place. I still actually have to kind of do some research and figure that out.
That's really cool. Speaking of Christmas and the holidays, you're over there for the holidays. Any regrets or feedback from family, friends, et cetera, that you'll be gone for the holidays? And before you left, did family or friends have any concerns or advice or fears or anything like that before you took off?
I mean, there's always a little bit of mother's guilt every time, but I think that for the most part, everybody is just kind of like very supportive and excited to see what I'm going to do. Like I think they're also a little bit like, it's like similar perspective of like, oh, that's really something that I would like to do. So like I can live vicariously through you type thing. I think, yeah, my parents were kind of just a little bit like, it's a curious choice and we're going to miss you. And like, you come and help us out and stuff. And now we're not going to have that kind of thing. But I've actually probably communicated with them on a more regular basis being here than I would have if I was just living 2 hours away.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's actually like kind of a good development. And then in terms of fears, not really. I mean, I the only thing that I could think of would be like getting stranded somewhere or, like running out of money, like getting mugged or something like that. And that's another thing that's great about New Zealand is like, it's a super safe country. I mean, for example, like I was hitchhiking several times and that was something that like my mom would see and be like, you got to stop that. That's crazy. What are you doing? But culturally, it is super accepted. And like, I met travelers that were primarily getting around via hitchhiking. And so like every day you'll see like people on the side of the road just waiting to get picked up. And it's, like you're not going to wait long.
No worries, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you referenced that in your blogs. The whole no worries culture or attitude, and what you said is interesting in that number one, it's an island. Number two, they're not on the world stage to such a degree as, say, an America or a Britain, which sort of inherently allows a little bit more of a laid back attitude. But all that was really cool. And the point you made about changing your perception and not to get bogged down in, it says shit. I think you said shitty details of this or that. Wiser just to focus on the simple things that are positively influencing your daily life. I think maybe being in a place like that sort of allows for more of that. We put such a heavy trip on our heads just being in America.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like you, your perception of things that matter does definitely change, where like, and it's just a mindset thing. Like you don't have to put so much weight on something that's so inconsequential.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like road rage or anything like that, or like um, the way that you're so worried about going through your day and not having enough time to do this or whatever. Like I think as Americans, there's such a culture of like prosperity, and like you have to like work really hard to like achieve some sort of status, and that's not important. Like once you get to that level, then what? Then you're like, well, I'm super burnt out to have gotten here, so you don't have time or energy for like appreciating other things. And yeah, that's like, yeah, there's not as much of like that need to achieve some sort of like threshold of power or something like that, like status. So it's a lot more laid back, and they're happy with like that's another thing that is I noticed differently is they say, instead of them saying like, hey, are you good if we leave for the store right now, or like are you okay with like grilled cheese for lunch or something, they're like, are you happy to do this? Are you happy with that? And it's a subtle difference,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like also a motivation thing. Like where were they coming from when they said that? And like that's how they phrase those type of questions.
Even using the word happy can bring a little bit of joy to your life just for a second.
Yeah, exactly. And you notice like, oh, they're actually like they are happy to do this or that. It's not just like, sure, I will because I feel like I need to or I'm supposed to.
I'm sure there are too many to mention. But do you have a favorite experiences? You were mentioning some of your favorite, stuff in the
Hmm.
blog. But do you have favorite experiences? I mean, you've been cave diving and hiking and all kinds of cool stuff. Is there one that stands out, or one or two?
Yeah, so I think probably the best thing that I did is the Tongariro Alpine Crossing, which is about a 7 to 8 hour hike um, over like this mountain pass. So it was, it's sort of like, it's near Taupo, which is like sort of in the middle of the North Island. Um, and it's one of the mountains was used as Mount Doom in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, wow.
But it was funny because um, like the week before I did it, actually I think like a few days before, it had snowed, and like so the conditions were really sketchy. They actually closed it, and I think a month prior or something, like two people had died doing it, because since it's an alpine crossing, the weather is super variable. Like it could change in an instant up there, and like if a storm rolls in, then you might get caught, and like you just got to keep going because it's super dangerous. Or yeah, there's like a risk of avalanche as well and stuff. But not it wasn't actually necessarily like, I didn't find it super challenging in terms of the walk. Like sure, there were some uphill climbs here and there, but and like walking through snow and stuff like that, but it wasn't a major issue. It was really just like the beauty of the surroundings. Like it changed. First you start out and you're kind of just like in, I mean, it's not necessarily like swampland, but you're just like walking on a path and things seem pretty normal. And like you're like, okay, this is not that big of a deal. And then you start going up these stairs, and then you get to this valley that you're just between these two mountains, and it's all snow covered. And it's like, it was perfect weather, super bright. So you're walking through that and you're like, I can't even believe, like, I feel like I'm in Alaska or like some super northern, like Antarctic type place. And then you climb some more and climb some more. And then you're like looking into a red crater. And like you're seeing the peaks of the mountains and everything. And then you walk down and there's like these insanely blue lakes that are like reflecting all of the snow covered mountains. And it's just like what a treasure to be here, and like that this exists in the world, and I'm able to like be looking at it right now. It's crazy.
First, a reaction to that, and then another question. But it blows my mind that humans have been almost everywhere here on this planet, and of course, not in the depths of the ocean and stuff. But you mentioned stairs at the top of Mount Doom, and now, of course, that there's some negatives that come with that as well. But having been to, never New Zealand, but say Hawaii or Vietnam, it's like, golly, I can't believe people have been seeing this, and it's brand new to me, and that's got to fuel you along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, that was actually, it's pretty crazy. Like, they say that during peak season, there would be 2,500 people a day doing that walk.
Wow.
So that's just like absolutely insane. Yeah. Like, you would have been in line walking up some of the mountains and stuff, like, so that I think that would have really like lessened the experience for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that does add a little tinge of maybe regret, I guess. Oh man, hope we can keep this pristine,
Yeah.
Well, you've touched on it a little bit, but I'm curious, and you may not know until you get back and you can say that totally, but how has the trip so far, even preparing for it and being in it and being present, because I don't know how you can be anything other than present in an experience like that, affected or changed you, say, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, even physically, whether it's better or worse, as a matter of perspective, or will you not know that until you one, come back, or two, settled somewhere?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that actually a little bit from a perspective standpoint, I was starting to have experience changes before I even left, or like leading up to me leaving, because I think once you decide like, this is what I'm doing, this is happening, that is, you're already like kind of taking yourself into a different area, and like, so mentality wise, that you're taking a risk, and things like you're changing your whole life basically. So from just making that decision, and also sort of recognizing, like, in the process of untying and getting myself ready to go, I started thinking, like, what's the point in building up all of this anxiety and anticipation about a certain situation when you have no control over how it's going to be when you're in it? So
right.
Don't worry, like, don't build up all this anticipation of like, well, it's going to go poorly, like this person could react badly. There's all these like unknowns that might be scary. It's just like, just go and see what it's like, and then assess it as you're there, because you can actually like be in the moment and experience that. So I was kind of having thoughts like that before I was leaving, and I would say that, yeah, they've like kept with me, because, like, I am sort of have a fear of heights, and I did this like canyon swing, which was like a 70-meter free fall and swing through this canyon. And at first I was like, oh man, like building up the fear in my brain of like, oh, this is like a free fall and it's high up and you don't know how this is going to be. But I was like, just go with it. Just like, it's going to be fine. Many people have done it before. It's safe. Just jump and like feel good about it and enjoy it while you're there. And so, yeah, I wasn't actually like really even that nervous when I was doing it, which is pretty awesome. And then what? So you asked, oh, physically changing.
Just any changes in general, if anything you've noticed.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I'm in decent hiking shape at the moment, which they call tramping. And I would have thought that was another thing, but whatever.
Later, Indonesia.
Yeah, maybe. And also, yeah, like, healthy eating, like most people that live in New Zealand have a compost pile and have their own gardens. So like they're living a little bit off of their own land. Like, I had some amazing salads there, just like that were picked straight from the garden, like moments before eating it kind of thing. Like, and so their cuisine is actually pretty healthy. And so that was nice for me to just, like be eating that and being like, oh, I mean, I don't necessarily recognize like a daily, like, oh, my energy level is a lot like higher or anything like that. But I feel like, yeah, I was farting less or something.
That's a bonus.
Yeah.
You were, or you are now?
Oh, well, I am. I am now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. No, but also, yeah, like I think in doing the walks and in like eating in that manner, I lost like 15 to 20 pounds, which is kind of crazy because I was a pretty fit guy to begin with. I mean, like, I played soccer and ran every now and then back home and stuff like that. So I didn't think that I had like a bunch of excess to burn, but apparently I do. So yeah, those are all good.
Interesting point about the apprehension around doing things or anxiety. It's a very Buddhist perspective that, suffering is either in the past or in the future. And then once you address the thing that you were anxious about or grieving for, something like that, it's over. You've met it. And all that anxiety and stress and grieving is wasted effort that you could be enjoying in the present,
Yeah.
And I don't know a whole lot of other than like sports or, surfing or a creative endeavor that gives you that like travel does. It's such a teacher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. I don't know, man. Anything to add? I mean, I could sit here and take up your time all day. Oh, you know what? I was curious. Do you have any other history of travel before you set off around the world, or did something whet your appetite, or you just made a decision and went?
Yeah. I mean, I've traveled. I've been to like some places in Europe and stuff like that with. I went like on sort of a loosely considered school trip back in like 2003 with a bunch of people and went to a few countries then. And my family has traveled internationally every now and then. And then, I've gone with friends a few times as well. But the first big solo endeavor I took was back in 2012, going to Iceland by myself. So yeah, it's that was the first time that I'd ever solo traveled, especially internationally, like on that scale. And that was sort of like, yeah, a like dip of the toe where seeing, can I rely on myself to get around and experience these things and, figure everything out on my own. And I mean, I had a great time then, and I didn't necessarily like meet too many people. So that was a little bit of like a drawback or something that I wished would have been a little bit different. And in doing this trip, especially with the workaways, that's that was sort of a solution to that.
Do you think it would have been different had you gone with a partner? I did notice some people met you there. Is that right? Or did you meet
Oh
them?
yeah.
What's that
So
about?
I did pick up like travel mates along the way here and there in New Zealand. So like I would be staying at a hostel or something, and then like connect with somebody, and like there was a group of four of us that did the walk together just because we were staying at the same hostel, and we were talking on the shuttle on the way there. And then another guy I met at a hostel like weeks later met me, and we did a 2-day walk and kayak thing in this national park. And then I also did my last week in New Zealand, had 2 friends come out and visit. So we basically just like hit the ground hard, like driving and trying to pack in as many cool things and attractions and stuff as we could.
Cool. Very cool. Nathan Burns of Burning the Map, and I'm looking at your social media presence, of course, online at burningthemap.com. Instagram, Burning the Map, Facebook, Burning the Map. YouTube is always kind of a jarbled bundle of letters, but I'll link it from the
many characters, some capital, some not.
If anybody wants to write it down, it's channel/UCX24DSHXXYDQ44. Anyway, check the website for it at wellandgoodpodcast.com. And cool, man, I appreciate it. I've been following you on the online presences, and this podcast is brand new. I was like, that'd be a cool thing, because it's kind of developing and laying itself out, and it's, what do you talk about, Mm-hmm. But I think travel's definitely on that list, mm-hmm. and I'd love to check in with you again. I don't know, a month or two, or see how it's going, and then maybe when you come back in and have some closure, or come back to the States, if you do. Not suggesting that you do, whatever works, but and
you never know. You
never know. But get some perspective at that point. But anyway, man, travel safe, and I appreciate you doing this.
Right on. Thanks, Jay.
All
appreciate you having me.
All right, brother. Thanks again to Nathan for making time in his travels to sit down and talk a little bit. This has been another edition of the Well and Good Podcast. This edition focusing on travel and learning more about the world and cultural exchange, et cetera, et cetera. Find out, once again, more about Nathan and Burning the Map at burningthemap.com. You can link to all his social media from there. You can also go to this episode's show notes page at the Well and Good Podcast, or just wellandgoodpodcast.com. Scroll down to this episode's show note page, and all the information will be there waiting for you. Once again, my name is Jay Smack. Feel free to hit me up here at wellandgoodpodcast.com or smackj@gmail.com. And till next time, thanks for listening, and be well.